Every single year, literally billions of dollars move across the globe for things like building new roads, schools, and hospitals. But, sending the money is actually the easy part. The real trick is making sure that money becomes a hospital and doesn't just vanish. So, how do you follow the money? Well, we're about to dive into the incredibly detailed process that keeps global development honest. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to walk through the 5 key stages of this whole audit cycle. We'll kick things off with why we even need to follow the money. Then, we'll get into the nitty-gritty, the planning, the fieldwork, how they deliver the final verdict, and then wrap it all up with why this entire process is just so incredibly important for global trust. Okay, first up, following the aid money. This is the big why. We're talking about huge sums of money for projects that affect millions of lives. The stakes couldn't be higher, so there's this absolute need to make sure every single dollar is accounted for. And that brings us to the core question, right? How do you build trust between the country or organization giving the money, what this manual calls a development partner, and the country that's actually building the project? How do you give that partner the confidence that their money is being spent well? The answer, as you might have guessed, is a really rigorous standardized audit. Now, these audits specifically focus on something called foreign aided projects, or FAPs for short. And that's a pretty broad term. It basically covers any project that gets funding from one of these development partners. It doesn't matter if it's a loan that has to be paid back or just a straight-up grant. If it's foreign aid, it's getting audited.
And this is absolutely crucial. This process isn't just about catching mistakes after they happen. It's really a tool for oversight and assurance. It's all designed to build and maintain confidence, to make those development partners feel secure that their investment is actually making a difference.
Okay, so let's move on to the audit blueprint itself. Before a single person sets foot in a project office, a ton of planning has to happen. This is all the desk work that lays the entire foundation for a successful investigation.
And here it is. This flowchart is basically our roadmap for the whole process. As you can see, it's a very systematic cycle. It moves from planning to execution, then to reporting, and finally quality control. We're going to break this whole thing down.
So let's zoom in on that very first and maybe most important phase, strategic planning. Before a single document is even looked at, the entire audit is meticulously mapped out. You really can't leave anything to chance here.
And this planning phase makes a lot of sense when you look at it. First, the auditors have to define their mission. What are they trying to achieve? Then, they figure out the timeline and get the right team together. And finally, and this is key, they do their homework to really understand the project and figure out where things are most likely to go wrong.
A huge part of that planning is identifying something called the risk of material misstatement. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's basically the auditor's best guess about where things might already be wrong, whether by accident or on purpose, before they even start digging. Think of it like a treasure map that points directly to potential problems.
And of course, you need a team with a crystal clear chain of command. This hierarchy, from the Director General all the way down to the junior auditors, isn't just about bureaucracy. It creates a system of checks and balances that ensures every single stage of the audit is managed and supervised correctly.
All right, the planning is done, the risks have been assessed. Now it's time to get boots on the ground and start gathering some actual evidence. Welcome to the investigation phase.
So we're back to our roadmap. And now we're highlighting Phase 2, Audit Execution. This is really the heart of the whole operation. It's where the auditors perform their tests and collect the hard data that's going to shape their final conclusion.
So, how do they actually get that evidence? Well, they've got a whole toolkit at their disposal. They conduct formal interviews, they run data analysis to spot anything unusual, they use a bunch of different methods to piece together the full story. Let's zoom in on a couple of the most interesting ones.
First up is observation. And honestly, it's as straightforward as it sounds. An auditor will literally stand there and watch a process happen, like counting inventory or approving a payment, just to see if what's happening in reality matches what's written down on paper. It's a simple idea, but it can be incredibly revealing. Next is external confirmation. Now, this one is a really powerful way to build trust. Instead of just taking the project's financial statements at face value, the auditor goes directly to a totally independent third party, like the project's bank, and asks them to confirm the numbers. This gives them independent, verifiable proof.
So, all the evidence has been gathered, but the job is definitely not over yet. Now the auditors have to put all their findings together, report them clearly, and, this is huge, make sure their own work can stand up to scrutiny. It's time to deliver the final verdict.
Popping back to our roadmap one last time, we can see the final 2 phases. First, There's the reporting, where all the findings are officially documented. And then there's quality assurance, a final, essential step, where the audit itself gets audited to make sure it was done right.
The way they report their findings is built on communication. It all starts with an entrance meeting to set expectations, and it ends with the final audit report. But the most important steps might be in the middle, the exit meeting and the preliminary report. They give the project's managers a chance to respond to any issues before the ink is dry. This isn't an ambush, it's a dialogue.
And this slide really breaks down the difference between those two reports. You can think of the preliminary report as a draft. It lays out all the issues and basically asks management, what's your side of the story? The final report, on the other hand, is the official verdict. It includes any issues that weren't resolved and delivers the auditor's formal opinion.
And just to make sure the audit itself is totally reliable, it goes through its own intense quality control process. First, there's an internal check, where senior leaders inside the audit office review all the work. Then it goes to an external check for a final stamp of approval from a separate authority. This two-step process makes sure that final report is rock solid.
Okay, that brings us to our last section. Why does any of this matter? I mean, we've just walked through a super technical, detailed procedure. But it's not just about paperwork and rules. So let's connect the dots and talk about why this whole process is so important.
This quote from the Auditor General of Pakistan, taken right from the manuals forward, really gets to the heart of it. The whole point of this painstaking process is to improve accountability and strengthen trust. This system is what gives development partners the confidence they need to keep investing in projects that can literally change millions of lives for the better.
When you think about it, this whole audit cycle is a complex, mostly invisible system that our global cooperation relies on. And it makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other hidden processes, what other detailed rulebooks and careful procedures are quietly working in the background, just making sure our world keeps functioning every single day?